If you need cheap codes or cheap games, head on over to g2a.com. I'll leave the links down below in the description. Remember to use dirty at checkout. What's happening, my beautiful people? My name is Mike and welcome back to the FUT Guide, and we're doing the recap. The second half of our FUT Champs matches. The first 16 games where I went 15-1 happened live on stream. That video is already live on YouTube if you want to go check that out. Stay up to date. If you haven't seen that and you're watching this video, please go watch that, and I'll put a link in the comments in the description. And that's because it shows you what's happening, gives you a little more information regarding tactics, the team itself. Even though we're going to discuss that throughout this video, and towards the very end we're going to analyze a little bit more with the squad. But I did want to kind of bring back the 40 and 40 feel. A lot of people like these types of videos, especially early on last year. So here we are. If you do enjoy it, if you're one of those people, drop a thumbs up. Because it takes a while to put together these longer videos, but I know that the gameplay crew, you guys, you definitely want to have more gameplay on display. How are you scoring your goals? How are you conceding goals? Just a little bit of everything. And in the comments, if you have any format adjustments that you'd like to make, or you'd like your voice being heard in terms of how I set up these videos, please use those comments. And then I'm going to bring up a lot of points in this video, whether it's more ways that you can win or easier ways to make good adjustments going forward for the weekend league to increase your wins. And I'd love to go back and forth with you. Among that, I'm going to talk about tactics. I'm going to analyze my own gameplay and what I did good, what I did bad, because it's so important as a FIFA content creator or as a FIFA player, as somebody who's looking to be involved in the competitive scene, or you're just looking to go from I'm struggling, I'm in silver, I want to go to gold, or I'm in gold and I want to go to elite. You need to analyze your own gameplay, and that starts with being honest with yourself. What am I really doing well? I'm not blaming everything on the game. What am I really doing well, and what am I really struggling at? And how do I make changes? Because everybody loves to blame the game, and we're going to actually talk about that shortly, because there's been a couple, I'm not going to say they're meta issues, but just my eyebrows lifted, okay? I've wondered, could EA have implemented something perhaps with sliders? But hold that thought. I want to start out. You've seen my team, and I played the 4-2-3-1 to start every single match. No matter what my formation or what my opponent's formation was, I played the 4-2-3-1 at least to start. And I didn't make a lot of formation changes. Instead, I made tactical adjustments. So if I was losing a game and I felt that I wasn't getting enough pressure, I would go into custom tactics and ramp it up. And that's because I understand, or I think I have a good understanding of custom tactics when you need to get a lot more pressure, change your mentality. The combination of both typically is going to equal not necessarily more offense, but you're going to have higher risk, higher reward. You're going to take the ball away higher up the pitch, which almost always leads to good counterattacks or easier chance creation, which is no surprise. That's not new if you've been playing FIFA for years in terms of how the tactics work. EA loves to reward you when your opponent makes a mistake, or punish you if you're the one making the mistake. It just seems like that's been built into the game. If you have a bad turnover, how often do you concede? I'll wait. You can let me know. And I do have one kind of mini disclaimer. There are, I think, 3 games where I'm in seasons, and I use those as warm-up matches. And I recommend that, by the way. Before you go in and play versus any opponents in FUT Champs, please just play a warm-up. Even if it's not against a good opponent. It's just to get your hands a little warm, like get comfortable with the controller. You understand how that could be important, but you're not going to see those games. I won all of them. I just didn't want to confuse you. I didn't want to start differentiating the content where you're like, what's going on there? What's happening in that game, Mike? What is this random match? Or if I had thrown in a squad battles game or something along those lines. I wanted to make sure that we kept the weekend league content just very weekend league-ish, okay? I wanted to make sure that I had the straight and narrow. We're going down this line, and you guys would be able to keep up, basically, because it is a lot of matches. 40 games is a ton, and I don't want you to be confused. I don't want you to be in the comments like, hey, yo, what happened? I saw 5 games that did not go on your record, you name it. So that's kind of where I'm at with some of the highlights here, some of the gameplay. And with that 4-2-3-1, I always had Gareth Bale as my striker, and then I'd have Pogba as the central cam, and then as my right attacking mid, we had Dembele. Left attacking mid, we had Martial. Nope, sorry, flip those. Left attacking mid, we had Dembele. Right attacking mid, we had Martial. And that's because I want the right-footed player on the right side and the left-footed player on the left side, even though Dembele is damn near equal-footed. Just thought I'd mention that's how I had it set up. I felt that that worked really well. for me. So let's look at my notes over here. I want to make sure I'm bringing up what I need to discuss. And it is important to understand matchups with formations. So with the 4-2-3-1, it has good balance. And I decided to go with the defensive formation because most people aren't having trouble scoring goals, but a lot of people have trouble stopping goals from being scored. And you can't give up 3 or 4 goals and win very many games. So I went with a more defensive approach, and that was my plan with the first weekend league. I didn't necessarily know what to expect coming into this weekend league, just because I haven't felt that confident with the game, nor have I had as much time as I would have liked to sit down and really grind this game. So I'm just trying to make smart adjustments throughout. And when I'm talking about adjustments, that doesn't always mean tactical moves. It could just be how you're playing. For example, oh, I need to be a little more simple. I was often overdoing a lot of situations and scenarios early on in FIFA 18, and that's where you saw more of my mixed results. I wasn't being simple enough. Too many skill moves, too much flair, too much extra. Even though I do like the extra in FIFA, it does make it very interesting for me. However, FUT Champs, you add some delay, you add some lag, and the servers, they've still felt somewhat like FUT Champs servers. I don't know that we're in a better place. I don't know that we're necessarily in a worse place. I just, fingers crossed on the disconnects, please. I don't want disconnects. But if you're in the North and South America region, there's just too much distance between North and South America. So anytime I get a matchup versus Brazil, and I've talked about this on the live stream, it's always going to be slow. For both parties, it's not going to be a fun game for anybody, and then you're just sitting there begging or asking the FIFA gods, please let me score first. Please let me score first. And I will have that defending tutorial coming soon. I know I've said that many times, but I've just been very busy creating so much content, guys, between the live stream, uploading on YouTube every single day, sometimes twice a day. I want to make sure that I do the tutorials right. I didn't want to rush too many of them out, but I'm going to do my best to get a bunch of tutorials out very soon. I definitely have a very good grasp on the game at this time, at least in my opinion. I have a good grasp, whether I'm playing amazing or I'm not, in terms of just the mechanics and how everything works. With that being said, though, EA will probably drop another patch, and then who knows what's going to happen, because they already dropped one major patch at the beginning of the year where it went from a super, I mean completely manual game, especially defensively, to now you have a lot more AI assistance, which I don't know if I like that. I'd rather us all have to learn and be forced into learning. And don't get me wrong, it's still not FIFA 17. I see people on Twitter, I see people with the community interacting saying, oh, it's back to FIFA 17. No. It's not back to FIFA 17, not in my opinion. However, people do get a lot more AI assistance, and once again, it's become where you have to weigh, is it worth me taking control of the center back, or should I let the AI use the defend with the center back? Which is easier for me? And that's where the real struggle is. As you can see, I have squad battle rewards that kind of came out while I was playing, so I felt, okay, let me throw those into this video. Nothing crazy was packed, and I don't think I'll play any more squad battles games. I think I'm done. Not interested. For me, it just feels like a waste of time, and more importantly, it's bad practice. If you're someone who knows you want to be an online guy, right? You want to be a gameplay guy. You want to make sure that you're making the right habits, the smart decisions, that you're building up and you're improving. Squad battles won't do that. The AI, playing against the AI, is not going to help you improve your gameplay. And maybe if you don't have any of the intangibles down, you don't know what you're doing with FIFA, it's good practice, but in terms of you already being a pretty good player and you want to go great or you want to become amazing, it's terrible. It's just not good practice because they defend weird, they attack strange, they just don't replicate. And when I say they, the CPU, the AI does not replicate what a real person does, and they never will. And if you play squad battles, it just feels like the sliders have been turned down. So my players, no matter who I have, just seem like they're in slow-mo, versus the ultimate or the legendary CPU. That's all that changes for me, is that my team doesn't feel as if they are actually playing like they're my squad. They just seem like the sliders have been turned down and they are slower than they should be. Their shooting is not as good as it should be. They're passing, a lot of unforced errors. Like, why does that happen? That's just my take on squad battles. But if you know you want to be an FUT Champs guy, you have dreams and ambitions of trying to qualify for a regional, there's no way it could be good practice. I don't believe it. With that being said, please, by all means, keep playing squad battles. If you finish top 100, if you finish even in elite, you could get some really big time rewards, some special rewards. But for me, when I'm looking at playing 40 games, even throughout the week, it's too much, and it's too much of bad practice. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And speaking of sliders, this is one of the points that's going to be a little bit debatable in this video. And this is a conversation piece. If you've never seen any of my recaps, if you've never seen my 40 and 40s from last year, if you've never seen some of the podcast work I've done, we're going to have more of a conversation between myself and you guys that are watching at home, as opposed to it necessarily being a high energy, a high octane, yelling and screaming and reacting. It's a little bit different. We're going to try to analyze and talk about the game and really nerd out in terms of how we take this just analytical approach to FIFA. And I do keep stats of all the players in my team for 40 games because I feel like you guys at home want to know, hey, well, is this player worth it? Well, I can show you their numbers and you can make a decision off that. I could also tell you if I felt like they performed well or they didn't perform well, but statistics kind of back up sometimes your claim. If I say Pogba's great as a center attacking mid, there will be people that say, I don't know. You don't think he's more so built to be a holding mid? You don't think he's too slow to be an attacking mid? Maybe he needs to be a center mid. And I can be like, well, look, I'm just saying he was excellent for me in that position. Here are the stats. And I actually think Pogba in 40 games had 29 goals and 21 assists. And if you have watched me play, I'm not someone who bashes people, and you're going to see it in this content. Or in these games, so to speak. I don't have that many games where I score 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. I'm not somebody that kills people. So it's not like my stats don't have relevance into the grand scheme. And I bring that up because there's people I know that might get 6 or 7 goals in one game with one player. And that is going to skew your results in terms of statistics. Over those 40 games, if you have a few matches like that, I'm talking 3 or 4, your results have been skewed. Especially if you had other games where you got spanked, you took a lot of really big losses. But for me, I always try to play within the team, and I play what I see. So if people are standout performers in terms of goals and assists and positioning and just having the physical approach and how they move the ball and just their relevance and their ability to change a game, that's good. That's really good. And I'm not saying my feedback with players is better than everyone's feedback. I'm not trying to take any shots like that. But I just want to throw out some perspective for you guys that are watching. If you see someone, for me, score or assist for over in 40 games, they provide or they score over 40 goals in some capacity, then they're definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. In fact, I would say they're amazing. And what I mean by that is Pogba with 29 and 21. That means that he had 50 goals that he was either scoring or providing. 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. That is an excellent rate for me. He did take quite a few of my penalty kicks too, which probably didn't help him, or probably didn't hurt him on the whole goal tally. But let's talk a little bit more about how can you improve in FUT Champs. How can you get better if your results aren't necessarily where you want them to be. Number 1 will always be composure, and these I wouldn't say these are in order, but this is stuff that I noticed. What I noticed from playing this past weekend. You have to have composure. Offensively, defensively, you need to be able to handle tough situations. Whether that's scoring the goal, whether that's knowing when to clear it, when to pass it out of the back, not rushing in these key moments. And I actually was very mad at myself, and you're gonna see it in some of these games where you see me going to extra time or penalty kicks. I was winning a lot of those games and I gave up the equalizer, and that's very frustrating. And someone like myself that takes pride in being able to close out games, that's a big problem, major error. I cannot do that and expect to win. And that kind of falls into the composure side, where I just made poor judgment in big moments at the end of these games. Or you could say my opponent was amazing, but it's just bad game management, and that's not gonna it's not gonna translate into results. You cannot have bad game management in FIFA. If you're ahead, you need to make sure your opponent starts to feel a little bit of that pressure that he might not be able to make a comeback, and he starts to rush. He starts to force passes, not you, not the other way around. And then when you're chasing a game as well, just because you go down a goal doesn't mean you just, oh, I'm in so much trouble, I'm gonna lose this game. It's all about that mentality. Gotta keep the right mentality. And in FIFA, it's always been important to score first. It's always been very helpful. It's good for your confidence. It's good for your ego. But in FIFA 18, defense is tough. And kickoffs are pretty strong. So if you concede early, do not allow yourself to quit. Do not allow yourself to give up. Keep a very strong mentality, because you get chances to come back in a lot of these games. You're going to see, and you've already seen in many of these matches, sadly, I make the cardinal send, or I commit the cardinal send, and I concede a goal in the first 10, first 15, first 25, 20, 25 minutes of the match, and I'm down a goal, but I'm able to come back in the majority of those games and get the positive result. And that's, of course, a mix of mentality. I'm not quitting mentally, even though I went down a goal. And then, of course, a skill set and getting used to the tendencies and playing yourself into games. Like I said, FIFA 18 will give you the opportunity to make comebacks. And it's very hard to close out games. Everyone has stories of blowing a 2-0 lead, blowing a 3-0 lead, you name it. And I almost call this the will to win, which I'm putting this in my 5 ways to improve your results over the weekend league. Having a will to win. So I'm not necessarily better than you or you're better than me, but I want it more than you. Competitive spirit would be another way of saying will to win. I want it more than you. I'm taking this more serious than you. You will get results in FIFA if you have that mentality. Even versus someone who might have outplayed you in that game or could be better than you. But you wanted it more. And it shows. It always shows when we're looking through gameplay. You have less mistakes. And then at the end of games, you might nick some winners because you have that will to win. And then another point that's got to be talked about when you're looking at 5 ways to get better is being clinical. And this still plays hand in hand with composure. I need a water sip. Hold on. Sorry, I was getting parched. This plays hand in hand with composure, which it should. That makes a lot of sense. However, being clinical is crucial for success every single FIFA, because if I make 15 chances and I only convert 2 goals, and that happens a lot. People tweet me all the time their records, or not even their records, their post-game, what was it, match facts? Their match facts, and they have 15 shots, they only have 2 goals. And some of that's on you. Whether you want to admit it or not, some of that is on you. There is bad luck in FIFA, but FIFA is also a game where you get the same spots over and over again, and you're going to convert those chances, whether you feel like EA wants you to win or doesn't want you to win, you name it. Which kind of transitions into point number 4, which is going to be defense. You've got to have solid defense, and even if your defense is a little shaky, you need bend but don't break defense. And it's a terminology that I hear used mostly in the NFL. If you watch American football, they always talk about being able to basically stop your opponent from scoring even when they're in the red zone. And the red zone is where you're 20 yards from getting a score, scoring a touchdown. Sorry, I'm trying to word this in a way for the UK guys and the Europeans that never watched American football in a sense, or in a form that you guys would understand. Basically, you're holding them from getting into that touchdown. You're holding them from scoring and getting maximum amount of points in those situations. And the same works in FIFA. So when your opponent gets into your box, or close to your box, they're on the edge of the box, you have made most likely some defensive errors at that point. But that does not mean you're out. That does not mean you're done. That does not mean that he has to score, or he has to create an opportunity, or he has to get a shot. And that's bend but don't break defense. I didn't fall apart. I made a couple mistakes, but I didn't fall apart. And I can't stress that enough in FIFA, how important having these little, I'm not even going to say intricacies, but just paying attention or focusing even in these moments where you've made mistakes. Don't get down on yourself. Mentality has never played such a big part in any game that I've played. I don't think it ever has. FIFA, wherever you are mentally, tells you the kind of results you're gonna have. If you're confident, it shows. If you're not confident, boy does it show. If you're not thinking well, it's gonna be a problem, because there's a 1v1 title where the skill gap's usually pretty close. And when you have a game where it's decided by maybe a couple chances or a lucky bounce, then all the little mind games that you're playing with your opponent are going to matter, and where you're at mentally is going to matter. And that's why we see a slippery slope of results or poor results once you lose one game, because you start to lose it here. It's not just that your hands aren't working the same. No, it's here. It's mental. Or if you get a disconnect or a laggy game and you lose that match, it carries into the next game. It often does. I'm guilty of this as well. And I try to do my best to preach against it. Go for a walk, get out of the house, take a break. Anything that you can do to make sure that your mind will refocus at a later date or a later time. Or if you have to wait a whole day, wait a whole day. Whatever you need to do. But you need to be focused when you're playing FIFA if you want the best results as a player. And then the last point that I wanted to bring up, if you're looking to improve during the weekend league, is paying attention to tendencies, both with your attack and, more importantly, your opponent's attack, and what you do defensively. Is, okay, has he ran the wing? Does he do skill moves? Oh, I've already seen him do one Berber spin in this location. I already saw him try to cut it back once, because people play with habits. Not everybody plays based on reactions, and that's fine. But that allows you to get a competitive advantage if you're able to pick up on those tendencies. And I even talk about your offensive tendencies as well, because if you're predictable, then it gets easier on your opposition, and that's where you need to start mixing it up. And if you're aware of your offensive tendencies or your defensive tendencies, it allows you to make adjustments a lot easier on the fly, because you're like, hold on, Mike, you need to get this together, or Charles, you need to do this, or Walter, you need to do this. Whatever your name is at home, you know, whatever you go as, if you got a nickname, you know, Tay Rock, let's go. No, but seriously, this is where I talk about being honest with your gameplay, and when you watch your gameplay back, because we now have access to do that. It doesn't matter if you have a capture card. It doesn't matter if you want to live stream or not live stream. If you want to record something, you have an Xbox where you can record your games, you can record your clips. Everybody has access now to rewatch and really analyze their own gameplay, because when you're in the match, it's hard to do all at once, because your mind is working in a sense where, alright, how do I break this guy down? You're not necessarily looking at every mistake and holding on to those mistakes, or every good decision you make either. You're just trying to make sure you are progressing your attack or stopping your opponent as much as possible, depending if you're on the offensive end or you're on the defensive end. It's really that simple. But when you rewatch, then you know, I messed up this finish because this blank. Ooh, I gave the ball away in this area, and that's why I conceded a goal. Damn. And that allows you to make those corrections. As a player, it allows you to make those corrections, no debating. You know that you were wrong, or you know that there was a mistake that was made. As you can see on screen right here, I believe this is our last game, actually. Our final match from the 40. And I did not make it easy on myself. Going into this, I think I was 36-3 heading into the final match. I really wanted 38 wins as well. I thought it was possible based on how I'd been playing. I'd already won a lot of penalty kicks. And if you watch that and you have questions about penalties, go for it, you can ask me, but I don't like what EA's done with this year's system. I think there's a lot more random, well, not random, but it's just a guessing game. I feel like I'm playing rock, paper, scissors, where last year, as you got better, you could kind of bait your opponent, because the run-ups were much different. I don't like what EA did with these run-ups. I almost felt like they decided they needed to make an adjustment. They needed to make some sort of change to set pieces. But last year's set pieces really weren't bad. Everybody is starting getting used to the penalties, and they're definitely in a better state last year than they were this year, where you have no after the run-up interaction, so to speak, in terms of faking everybody out and then filling up the meter, and you can mix in chips, you can mix in ground shots, power, you name it. There's a lot of customization in FIFA 17 with penalty kicks, and I don't know that this year has the same, well, actually, this year doesn't have the same type of feel, not in my opinion. As you see the win, 5-4, and our final record is 37-3, and I missed the top 100 by, I think, 20 skill points, which it is frustrating that 37 wins in the first week was not enough. But for me, I was able to take a lot away from this weekend. And that's why starting formation 4-3-3, I pause the game, I change into the 4-2-3-1, and that's just for chemistry purposes for you guys that are brand new and you're like, why would you do that? I don't understand. That's why. But if you enjoyed it, please drop a thumbs up. Remember, any questions about anything that we've discussed in this video or that I brought up, please, I welcome it in the comments. If there's anything else you want to talk about with FUT Champs in general, or teams, squads, custom tactics, instructions, comment down below. But I have a lot more content coming for you ASAP. Peace.
Oh no!